Hello everyone, and welcome to this Telescript tutorial on the preferences settings within Telescript Pro. Now, Telescript Pro has quite a few features in its preferences that you can tweak and configure, and we're going to go through all of them today. So let's take a look at the preferences. So we'll go up to Tools, Preferences, and here is our Preferences window. So we'll start with the Script tab, and as you can see in the Script tab at the top, you've got some script save options. Basic stuff: save if changed, confirm on the overwrites, setting a default script path. So if you have a folder on your desktop that you generally use to bring in scripts and save scripts to, you can set this default path so every time you try to open and save scripts, you'll always be directed to that folder. Bookmarks, so you can hide or make bookmarks visible. All you need to do is just check off this box, depending on which option you'd like. In the bookmark text section here, so it defaults to the double chevron icon, but you can change this to basically any icon or set of text that you want it to be. We usually set it to this just because it's probably a set of characters that you'll rarely find inside scripts that are being given to you. So it's just easy just to make this the double chevron, so you don't have to worry about, if you change it to an asterisk, you're likely to get scripts that have asterisks in them. So every time you would hit your bookmark button, it's going to look for the asterisk, and not only will it find the bookmarks that you inserted, but it'll also find the asterisks that are inside the script already. So you want to try to keep this bookmark text to something that is uncommon in the script that you're working in. Down here at the bottom, this is where you're going to set your default script font characteristics, your text color, your background color, default line lengths, paragraph settings, all that kind of stuff can be set right from in this section here. And finally, the index arrow. This is going to move where your index arrow is in your script. You can change the color. If you want to make it from gray, you want to make it blue, just make it blue. Okay, there we go. So now it's blue. And then let's put it back here. Then if you want to change the location of it, all you need to do is just, slide this slider up and down, and it'll move the, once you click OK, you'll see now it moves it up into the position that you've selected. And that's pretty much it for the script tab. Let's go to the header tab. Now the header tab basically is going to insert a set of information at the top of every new script that you create. So you can deselect these. You don't have to turn them on if you don't want to. If you just want to open up a script that's just blank with no text at the top, just go ahead and deselect all of these. But for instance, I have time of creation and date of creation selected here. So if I was going to make a new script, here I had created one before, this is the slug that's going to go up top if you have the settings set to insert some sort of information at the top of every new script. So that is the header tab. Then in the defaults tab, now I've done an entirely separate video on defaults. Really the key thing to know here is that if you have no defaults selected, whatever the text attributes are in the script that you're importing are going to follow through, are going to come through. So, if you've got, colors in that script, all those colors are going to come through. If you have a specific font set in that script, all that font is all going to come through. Same thing with line length and so on and so forth down the list. If you decide that you want to always push to a specific font or a specific line length, you can check these off and then apply them when that script comes in. So depending on exactly how you want to operate, this is where you'll select your default stuff. But again, there is another video that goes into a deep dive on all of your defaults. So the run list tab, obviously this is your run list. and in the run list tab here, you've got a number of options. You can, if you save the run list and then you close it, you know, it'll confirm that you want to overwrite it. If you change it, it'll ask you if you want to save. These are just kind of defaults that we can set in here, just so you don't forget to save things that you want to save. In the run list option here, these are just a bunch of other little things. So you can, in the run list, you can have a timer set up, and you can set it to a stopwatch, time of day, a countdown. I'll do a separate video on, you know, the clocks and the timers in our software. But you can select any of these. You can, you know, display the run list timer when you boot up. You can reload the last run list at the startup every time you reboot the software. All of these just control what happens in this run list over here. And then at the bottom here also you have the run list display options. Right now, as you see, I have details selected. So if you look in the run list itself, I've got a whole bunch of details here about the scripts that are in this. You can pare this down. You can change it to just be a list. It could be icons, small icons or large icons. Depending on what you want, you know, this run list to look like. This is where you can tweak what you have that run list look like. And the newsroom tab, I really won't go too deep into the newsroom tab, only because this really focuses on MOS integration, iNews integration, and if you're going to configure 2 versions of Telescript Pro to do live updates between each other. So there'll be separate videos on those, but just so you know that this is where all of the settings go when you're going to do live updates between either a MOS or iNews integration or Telescript Pro to Telescript Pro live update configuration. Next, we have the prompter tab, and in the prompter tab, this is a bunch of just performance stuff. You can disable your font smoothing. You know, depending on the computer that you're running this on, you might need to disable the font smoothing. Disabling the font smoothing takes up a little bit of memory, so it could slow up your computer depending on what its capabilities are. So just you can disable it. You can automatically disable the screensaver, so the screensaver doesn't come on while you're running the software. Same thing with Power Manager, you know, that disables all the sleep settings and everything. So that's where you would change all the performance settings, you know, when it comes to running the software. Then at the bottom here, you got some script linking stuff. So obviously you have multiple scripts in a run list, and when you get to the bottom of one, it's going to move on to the other. And this basically enables you to tell it that you want to link to the next script and you want to link to the previous script. If you never want to go backwards to the next script, as you scroll backwards, you can unselect that if you want. The link transition type, you just got a number of, you know, ways that the script linking goes between one or another. And then how quickly that transition takes as it moves from one script to the next. Finally, at the bottom here, just some functions on exactly how you get in and out of prompt mode. If you do the drop down here, you can see you can edit in a defined window, which means that you don't have any of these bars or anything on top. But I have it so you want to select all bars on. So once you do go into edit mode, you have access to all of these functions up here in your top toolbar. Same thing goes with F5. You can prompt in a window. Instead of going full screen, it'll just open up a small window and you can scroll in that. You can prompt on an extended monitor if you're in an extended monitor situation where you are in extended desktop mode, and when you go to prompt, instead of prompt coming up on your desktop, it'll only prompt on the external monitor. So you can set it up to do that as well. And then finally, prompt full screen, which is what I have here. So once you hit F5, all this goes away and you go full screen on your desktop. And in the logging tab, super important to make sure that at the very least you have log to file, all these options checked off. This is super helpful for programming. If you have a problem, if you're having issues that you can't quite figure out, you can send us log files for our programming department to take a look at and assess what was going on at the time. So without these files, it's impossible for us to kind of get an idea of what was going on at the time that you did have your problem. This log to window, usually you turn it off. This would actually log the log file to a window on your desktop. If you want to see it, you can select it all and turn it on, but most people don't want to have that additional window on their desktop. Here, this is the default path for your log files. You can just click browse, a little window will come up, and you can select the location on your computer that you want those log files to be saved. By default, they are located in the documents, and if you go down to documents, you go to your Pro, you'll see a log files folder, and that's by default, that's where the log files get saved. And down here, the log window properties, this is if you want to see the log file window, or if you don't want to see the log file window, you could turn it on here. And you can also just change the size of the text in the window. But again, most people don't make the log window visible. So this is generally turned off for most users. Captioning, I won't talk too much about captioning. I don't have a caption decoder here. And usually what would happen is if you had a captioning device connected, it would be assigned a COM port, and then down here at the bottom you would just select the ports and your baud rate and any of the other pieces of information here that might be required to send to the encoder. And up here is just all of the captioning information to be able to send information from Telescript Pro to the captioning device. Basically, most of these things they don't get changed. All you really need to do if you do have a captioning device, you just click to enable the captioning device. So once you start to scroll, all the information that needs to go to that encoder is enabled and is flowing outwards. Your controller, so top section here, your 10-button controller. Port timeout, it's usually set to 2000 milliseconds. This is just the amount of time it takes for Pro to continue to look for a device on a particular COM port. Once it detects or not detects, it will just move on after 2000 milliseconds. You're never really going to have to change this, so really no need to tweak this at all. But here you can click detect controllers, and what'll happen is it'll open up a window and it'll tell you exactly, what controllers it found, what COM ports it was assigned to, and this is just helpful just to make sure that your controller is being recognized by Telescript Pro, and it would come up in this list here. Your dialog control, right now I have full dialog control, and dialog control is basically this window here. Let me show you that. So this is the dialog controller. So the settings in the tools and preferences for the controller, that's what the full dialog controller looks like. If you want to have this on screen for some reason, but you don't want it to be so large, you can just click mini dialog controller, and this is what the mini dialog controller looks like. So if you want to keep that, you can. Otherwise, what I think what most people wind up doing is they wind up just doing no dialog controller. Then it'll go away. And continuing on with the controller tab, you have mouse control. This is where you can set all of your controls if you're going to use a mouse. A lot of operators like to have a mouse set up as a backup device to scroll. The scroll wheel is probably the better way to scroll script if you're going to use a mouse. So if you've got a mouse with a scroll wheel, highly recommend selecting wheel control speed in this setting. And then at the bottom here, this whole section here for the foot pedal is for older foot pedals that we used to sell. Some people still use them. These are the toggle switches for to be able to turn certain things on and off. Most people don't use them, but because there are still a few people out there that do, we leave this foot pedal operation section available. And finally, in the fine gradient coarse section here, this applies to your XK12 controller. As you slide this back and forth, you can control how fast your XK12 controller scrolls when you activate the shuttle dial that's on the outer ring. and the jog dial in the center. And finally, you also have an XK12 dimmer. The XK12 controller, if you don't have one, if you've never seen one, they have backlit keys, and sometimes some people think that the brightness is too bright, so they want to turn them down, or they want to turn the backlighting off completely. The XK12 dimmer option will pop up once you click this button. I don't have a XK12 controller currently connected, but once you click that button, a little dialog will open up, and then that's where you can adjust all the intensities on the backlit keys. And finally, in the Send To section, this is a section that communicates with an older piece of Telescript software called Echo that we no longer offer. We've left it in here just in case we decide to bring Echo back at some point. But right now, the Send To tab really doesn't really apply to anything that we currently have available. But we leave it in here just in case Echo does make a comeback at some point in the future. And that basically does it for all of the preferences inside Telescript Pro. If you've got any questions about any specific things in the Preferences tab, just shoot us an email at info@telescript.com, or you can give us a call, 201-767-6733. Thanks a lot.